On a cold autumn morning in the English countryside, a young woman named Eleanor Ashford climbed into the dusty attic of her late grandmother's cottage. The old house had stood on the edge of the village for more than 200 years, and every room carried the smell of polished wood, fading photographs and forgotten memories. Eleanor had returned only to prepare the cottage for sale. She never imagined that before sunset she would uncover a secret capable of changing everything she believed about her family. As she sorted through old trunks and broken furniture, she noticed a small wooden chest hidden beneath loose floorboards. The chest was covered in dust, but its brass lock still shone as if someone had touched it only yesterday. There was no key. Curiosity overcame hesitation. She gently lifted the lid. Inside lay a faded velvet cloth, an old silver locket, and a single handwritten letter folded with extraordinary care. The paper was yellow with age, but the royal seal pressed into the wax was still perfectly clear. Eleanor stared at it in silence. She had seen that crest before. Only in history books. It belonged to the British royal household. Her hands trembled as she carefully opened the letter. The first line stole the air from her lungs. "If this letter has found its way into your hands, then you are the last living guardian of our family's greatest secret." She continued reading. "For generations we have protected a truth that could never be spoken. Our family did not serve the crown, we were born from it." Eleanor blinked in disbelief. Surely it had to be some elaborate family legend. Then she reached the final sentence on the page. "The blood of a forgotten princess still lives within you." She lowered the letter and laughed nervously. It sounded impossible. Yet something deep inside told her not to ignore it. Beneath the letter rested the silver locket. She opened it carefully. Inside was a tiny painted portrait of a young woman dressed in royal clothing. On the opposite side was another miniature portrait of an infant wrapped in white silk. Between them was a single sentence written in delicate handwriting. "Never let the child be known." At that very moment Eleanor heard footsteps below. She quickly closed the locket and looked toward the attic door. The cottage was supposed to be empty. The footsteps stopped. Silence returned. She waited several seconds before slowly walking downstairs. Every room was empty. The front door remained locked from the inside. No windows were open. She searched the entire house. There was no one. As she turned back toward the staircase, she noticed something she was certain had not been there before. A fresh envelope rested on the hallway table. It had no stamp, no address, only her name written across the front. Eleanor Ashford. Her heartbeat quickened. With shaking hands she opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "You have opened what should have remained hidden. Do not trust anyone, especially those who wear the crown." Eleanor looked toward the window. Across the road a black car was parked beneath an ancient oak tree. Its engine was running. A man in a dark coat sat behind the wheel watching the cottage without moving. The moment their eyes met, the car slowly pulled away and disappeared around the bend. Eleanor rushed outside, but it was already gone. She stood alone in the cold wind, holding two mysterious letters that seemed impossible to explain. She had arrived that morning believing she was clearing out an old family home. By nightfall she was beginning to wonder if her family had spent centuries protecting a royal secret that someone was still willing to kill for. And somewhere hidden within the cottage there had to be one final clue waiting to be discovered. Eleanor barely slept that night. Every sound outside the cottage made her heart race. The old clock in the hallway seemed louder than ever, and every creak of the wooden floor felt like footsteps moving through the house. Just before sunrise she placed the letter and the silver locket into her backpack and decided to visit the only person she trusted. Professor Henry Whitmore, a retired historian from the University of Cambridge who had spent his entire life studying the hidden stories of the British monarchy. When Henry opened the cottage door and saw the royal seal, his expression changed immediately. Without saying a word, he locked every window closed and drew the curtains. Only then did he speak. "Where did you find this?" Eleanor placed the wooden chest on the table and told him everything. The hidden compartment, the mysterious letter, the black car, and the warning she had received only hours before. Henry remained silent for several moments. Then he carefully picked up the silver locket. His hands trembled. "I have spent 40 years searching for this. Eleanor looked at him in surprise. "You have seen it before. Only in an old painting that disappeared almost 100 years ago. According to royal records, this locket never existed. Yet several historians secretly believed it was created for someone whose name had been erased from history." Henry opened a large leather folder filled with ancient photographs. One faded image showed Queen Charlotte standing beside several members of the royal court. Everyone appeared calm except for one young woman standing near the Queen. Her face looked almost identical to the portrait inside Eleanor's locket. Henry pointed toward the photograph. "Official records identify her as Lady Beatrice Somerset. But that was never her real identity. Who was she?" Henry looked directly into Eleanor's eyes. Some believed she was the Queen's secret daughter, a child born during a political crisis whose existence could have destroyed the future of the monarchy. Every official document connected to her disappeared within a few years. Every portrait was destroyed. Every servant who worked in her household vanished from the historical record. It was as though she had never lived. Eleanor slowly reached into her bag and handed Henry the handwritten letter. He read every line twice. When he finished, he looked more frightened than excited. "This changes everything. If these documents are genuine, then someone has protected this secret for generations. But someone else has also been hunting it." Henry walked toward a locked bookshelf and removed an old map of England. On the back was a handwritten note copied from a diary discovered nearly 80 years earlier. The child was hidden where stone watches over water and the ravens never leave. Henry frowned. 4 decades historians believed it referred to the Tower of London because of its famous ravens. But they never found anything. Eleanor looked at the map more carefully. Near one corner was a tiny symbol matching the design inside her silver locket. It pointed toward a forgotten estate in Northumberland. Ashcombe Hall. Henry whispered the name. The Ashcombe family disappeared from public records over 200 years ago. No one knows why. Before either of them could say another word, a loud crash shattered the front window. Glass exploded across the room. A small stone rolled across the wooden floor. Wrapped around it was another message. Henry quickly unfolded the paper. "Leave the past buried. This is your final warning." Both of them rushed to the window. A black vehicle sped away down the narrow country road. Its number plate was impossible to read. Henry turned back toward Eleanor. His voice was calm but urgent. "Whoever sent these warnings knows exactly what you have found. And if they are willing to follow you here, then they are already one step ahead of us." Eleanor looked down at the old map once more. For the first time she realized this was no longer a family mystery. Someone had been protecting the truth for centuries. And someone else would do anything to make sure it was never revealed. The following morning Eleanor and Professor Henry left before sunrise. They avoided the main roads and drove north through quiet villages, rolling hills and endless fields covered in morning mist. Neither of them spoke very much. Both understood that every mile was taking them closer to a secret that had survived for centuries. By late afternoon they reached the ruins of Ashcombe Hall. The once magnificent estate now stood abandoned behind rusted iron gates. Its broken windows stared across the empty countryside like silent witnesses to a forgotten past. The official records described the place as deserted for more than 150 years. Yet as Eleanor stepped through the gates, she noticed something strange. Fresh footprints crossed the muddy ground. Someone had been there recently. Henry knelt beside the tracks. "These were made only a few hours ago. We are not alone." The front doors were locked, but one side entrance had been forced open. Inside the great hall, dust covered every piece of furniture. Long faded portraits still hung on the walls. Most of the faces had been damaged. Some had been cut away completely, as though someone wanted those people to disappear forever. Eleanor slowly walked toward the grand staircase. At the top hung the largest portrait in the house. Time had almost erased the paint. Only the face of a young woman remained visible. She wore a deep blue gown. Around her neck was the very same silver locket Eleanor had found in the wooden chest. Henry stared at the painting in disbelief. This cannot be possible. Every portrait connected to the secret daughter was supposed to have been destroyed. Someone failed. Or someone wanted this one to survive. As Eleanor moved closer, she noticed tiny writing hidden beneath the frame. It was almost invisible. She carefully brushed away years of dust. The words finally appeared. Truth survives where memory is protected. Henry gently lifted the heavy portrait from the wall. Behind it was a narrow stone compartment. Inside rested an old leather journal wrapped in faded cloth. Its cover carried the royal crest. But unlike every official royal document, this crest had been crossed with a single line. Henry slowly opened the first page. The handwriting matched the letter Eleanor had discovered in her grandmother's attic. This journal belonged to Thomas Ashcombe, the same man who had sworn to protect the Queen's hidden child. The first pages described the dangerous journey that carried the little girl away from the royal court. Each village, each safe house, each trusted family, every detail had been recorded. Then Eleanor reached one sentence that made her blood run cold. The child must never know who she truly is until the final guardian believes the kingdom is ready. Henry looked up. Final guardian. That must be your family. Generation after generation they protected this secret without revealing it. Eleanor turned another page. A folded piece of parchment slipped onto the floor. It was a hand-drawn family tree. The final branch ended with only one name. Eleanor Ashford. She could barely breathe. My name. Henry nodded slowly. Your family was never chosen by chance. They were part of the secret itself. Before Eleanor could answer, a loud floorboard creaked somewhere upstairs. Both of them froze. The sound came again. Slow, heavy footsteps. Someone else was inside Ashcombe Hall. Henry quietly closed the journal. Do not speak. The footsteps stopped directly above them. Then a man's voice echoed through the ruined house. I know you found the journal. You have something that belongs to us. Eleanor's heart pounded as she looked toward the staircase. A tall figure dressed in a long black coat slowly appeared at the top step. His face remained hidden in the shadows. But one thing was unmistakable. Pinned to his coat was the exact same royal crest that appeared on the silver locket. The stranger smiled. You were never supposed to reach this place. Now give me the journal, before history repeats itself. The great hall fell into complete silence. The stranger slowly descended the staircase without taking his eyes off Eleanor. His footsteps echoed through the abandoned mansion. Each step felt heavier than the last. Professor Henry quietly whispered, "Stay behind me." The man stopped only a few feet away. For several long seconds no one spoke. Then he removed his leather gloves and looked directly at Eleanor. You have your grandmother's eyes. Eleanor frowned. You knew my grandmother. The stranger nodded. Better than you could ever imagine. She protected the secret until the day she died. Now it has become your responsibility. Professor Henry stepped forward. If you know the truth, then tell us who you are. The man smiled faintly. Names are dangerous, especially when they belong to people history tried to erase. You may call me Arthur. That is all you need to know. Eleanor held the journal tightly against her chest. If you are here to protect this secret, why did someone threaten me? Arthur looked away for a moment. Because not everyone in our order believes the truth should ever be revealed. Order, Eleanor repeated quietly. Arthur nodded. For more than 300 years a hidden group known as the Keepers has existed for one purpose: to protect the bloodline of the forgotten princess. Every generation only a handful of people were trusted with the truth. Some believed the secret must remain buried forever. Others believed that one day the rightful story should finally be told. Professor Henry looked shocked. I spent my entire career searching for evidence of the Keepers. Everyone believed they were only a legend. Arthur reached into his coat and removed a small wooden box. Inside was an ancient signet ring bearing the same royal crest as the silver locket. This ring has passed from guardian to guardian for centuries. Your grandmother carried it before me. She asked me to give it to you only if the journal was ever found. Arthur placed the ring into Eleanor's hand. As soon as her fingers touched the cold metal, she noticed tiny words engraved inside. "The truth belongs to the last guardian." Eleanor looked up. "My grandmother knew this day would come." Arthur answered quietly. "She prepared for it all her life." Before Eleanor could ask another question, a loud engine roared outside the mansion. Several black vehicles raced through the broken gates and stopped in front of the house. Doors opened. Men wearing dark clothing quickly surrounded the building. Arthur's expression changed instantly. "They found us." Professor Henry looked through the shattered window. "There are too many of them." "Who are they?" Arthur took a deep breath. "People who believe history should remain a lie forever. They have hunted our order for generations." One of the vehicles stopped directly outside the entrance. A tall woman stepped out wearing a dark green coat. She looked toward the mansion with complete confidence. Arthur whispered only one name. "Victoria." Professor Henry looked confused. "You know her?" Arthur nodded slowly. "She was once one of the keepers. She betrayed us. Now she leads those who want every piece of evidence destroyed." The front doors burst open. Heavy footsteps filled the hall. Victoria entered without fear. Her eyes immediately locked onto Eleanor. "At last. The final guardian." She smiled calmly. "You have two choices. Hand me the journal and walk away. Or keep it. And watch every person beside you disappear." Eleanor tightened her grip on the journal. For the first time she understood that this was no longer just a hidden chapter of British history. It had become a fight between those who wanted the truth remembered, and those who would bury it forever. The silence lasted only a few seconds before the first footsteps echoed through the entrance hall. Victoria walked forward with complete confidence while the men behind her spread throughout the mansion. None of them spoke. None of them hesitated. It was clear they had done this many times before. Arthur slowly stepped in front of Eleanor. His voice remained calm. "You still have time to leave." Victoria smiled. "If I wanted them dead, they would already be dead. I only came for the journal. Nothing else matters." Professor Henry held the ancient book tightly. "You spent years destroying history. Now you expect us to hand it to you." Victoria's expression never changed. "History is not built on truth. It is built on stability. Some secrets protect nations. Others destroy them. This secret belongs to the second kind." Eleanor looked directly at Victoria. "If everything inside this journal is a lie, why are you so desperate to take it?" For the first time Victoria hesitated. Only for a moment. Then she answered quietly. "Because it is not a lie." Arthur closed his eyes. He had hoped she would never admit it. Victoria looked toward Eleanor once again. "Do you really believe the world is ready to hear that an entire royal bloodline vanished from history? Do you think people will simply accept it?" "No. They will demand answers that no one can give. Everything will become doubt. Every king. Every queen. Every crown." Arthur stepped forward. "People deserve the truth." Victoria shook her head. "People only believe the version of history that keeps them comfortable. Truth has never made the world peaceful." She slowly raised her hand. Two of her men walked toward Eleanor. Arthur moved instantly. He pushed Eleanor behind a fallen stone pillar as the first man lunged forward. Professor Henry grabbed an old iron candle stand and blocked another attacker. The ancient hall erupted into chaos. Dust filled the air. Wood splintered beneath heavy footsteps. Eleanor clutched the journal against her chest and ran through a narrow doorway she had noticed earlier. Arthur shouted after her. "Go to the library. The final clue is hidden there. Do not stop." She hurried down a dark corridor lit only by broken beams of sunlight shining through cracked windows. Portraits covered the walls. Most had been destroyed long ago. But one remained untouched. It showed the same young woman from the silver locket. Her eyes seemed almost alive. As Eleanor passed the portrait, she noticed something unusual. The frame had a small metal switch hidden beneath years of dust. She pressed it. A deep grinding sound echoed through the corridor. Part of the wall slowly moved aside. Behind it was a hidden room. The air smelled untouched. No one had entered for generations. In the center stood a stone table. Upon it rested a beautifully carved wooden box. The same royal crest appeared once again. This time beneath it were different words. For the final guardian alone. Eleanor slowly lifted the lid. Inside rested a leather-bound diary wrapped in royal blue silk. There was also a small gold key, and one sealed envelope addressed in elegant handwriting. To the last daughter of our blood. Tears filled Eleanor's eyes. Her hands shook as she opened the envelope. The first sentence made her stop breathing. If you are reading this, then our family has survived longer than I ever dreamed. I have waited my entire life for someone like you. Someone brave enough to uncover the truth that I could never tell the world. Eleanor recognized the signature at the bottom of the page. It was not Thomas Ashcombe. It was written by the woman whose existence had been erased from history. The Queen's secret daughter herself. At that very moment a loud gunshot echoed through Ashcombe Hall. The sound was followed by complete silence. Eleanor froze. She could not tell whether Arthur or Professor Henry was still alive. Then slow footsteps approached the hidden room. Someone had found the secret passage. And whoever was coming knew exactly where to find the final guardian. The footsteps grew louder with every passing second. Eleanor quickly placed the diary, the letter, and the golden key inside her backpack. She looked around the hidden room searching for another way out, but there was none. The ancient stone walls surrounded her from every side. The footsteps stopped outside the secret entrance. For a moment everything became silent. Then Arthur's voice broke the silence. "Eleanor, it is me. Come out." She slowly opened the hidden door. Arthur was leaning against the wall holding his injured shoulder. His coat was stained with blood, but he was still standing. Professor Henry appeared behind him. He looked exhausted but unharmed. "Where is Victoria?" Eleanor asked. Arthur looked toward the dark hallway. She escaped. But not before taking several pages from Thomas Ashcombe's journal. Professor Henry closed the hidden door behind them. Then he noticed the letter in Eleanor's hands. His eyes widened. "Is that what I think it is?" Eleanor nodded. "I believe this was written by the Queen's secret daughter herself." Henry carefully unfolded the letter. The handwriting was elegant and confident. He began reading aloud. "If these words have survived, then my family has survived with them. I was never abandoned because I was unloved. I was hidden because powerful men believed my existence would divide the kingdom. My mother chose my life over her reputation. She sacrificed her own happiness so I could live free from the endless struggle for power. If history remembers me as no one, then let it be so. But never allow history to forget the truth." Silence filled the room. Even Arthur lowered his head. For centuries they had protected this single voice. Eleanor quietly wiped away a tear. She finally understood that this was never a story about claiming a throne. It was the story of a mother protecting her child. Professor Henry looked at Eleanor. "What will you do now? The whole world would believe this. Or perhaps no one would." Eleanor looked at the old diary. Then at the silver locket resting in her hand. She remembered the warning. The threats. The lies. And the people who had risked everything to protect one innocent life. She smiled softly. "This story does not belong to kings. It belongs to the woman whose name was stolen." Weeks later, historians from across Britain gathered inside a private archive. Experts examined the letters, the diary, the portraits, and every surviving document. Most agreed that the evidence revealed the existence of a forgotten noblewoman connected to the royal court. Others argued that the mystery could never be fully proven. The debate spread across the country. Books were written. Documentaries were made. Questions filled museums, universities, and libraries. Yet one fact remained unchanged. No official record ever revealed the true identity of the Queen's hidden daughter. Some mysteries were simply too old to answer completely. One quiet evening, Eleanor returned to her grandmother's cottage. She placed the silver locket inside the wooden chest. Beside it, she left a new handwritten letter. If you have found this, then history has chosen another guardian. Protect the truth. But never let power become more important than kindness. She closed the lid, locked the chest, and hid it beneath the same floorboards where it had rested for generations. As she walked away, she turned back one final time. Sunlight poured through the attic window. For a brief moment she thought she saw the faint outline of a young woman standing there, dressed in royal blue, smiling peacefully. Then she was gone. No one ever discovered who she truly was. No crown was claimed. No throne was taken. Only one forgotten voice finally found someone willing to listen. And perhaps that was the greatest victory of all.